Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my name is Dr. Himanshu Tyagi and I am teaching this course on heat and mass transfer. We will continue on with radiative heat transfer, but we will look at an advanced topic today. So, today we are going to look at radiation heat transfer between surfaces. So, this will be the first part of this series of lectures, but let us first recap what we have done in the previous lecture, which was about the fundamentals of radiation, and in which we had looked at the different types of radiation intensity value. For instance, we looked at the spectral intensity for emitted radiation, which is given by this expression over here, and we looked at how it actually relates with the simple radiation intensity for emitted radiation, where there is no lambda variation in IE. So, it is simply an integral of IE lambda with d lambda. Then we went on and looked at the relationship between IE and capital E, which is the emissive power. So, we looked at this particular relationship over here. So, using this particular equation, we can convert the radiation intensity for emission into emissive power. In other words, we can convert the watts per meter square per sterradian into watts per meter square. The same thing can be done for incident case as well. The earlier case was for emitted, now we are looking for incident radiation, which is on the right hand side of this particular slide, and there we define this variable capital G, which is known as the irradiation. So, this is kind of the incident power flux on a particular surface, and that is given as a function of II, which is the incident radiation intensity. And later on we combined the factors for two type of radiation. One is this red reflected electromagnetic wave, and the other one is this blue one, capital E, which is the emitted. So, these two combined together give, through this particular relation over here, the variable known as J, which is the radiosity, and this also is given in watts per meter square, and it is linked to IE plus R. So, in all these three cases, we can get analogous relationships between I and the power related variable, whether it is capital E for the emissive power, capital G for irradiation, and capital J for radiosity. So, these are very important parameters because they directly link to Q dot over here, and that is the rate of heat transfer which we are always interested in. Then we looked at the physical properties of material, and we started off with emissivity, then we looked at absorptivity, reflectivity and transmissivity, and we considered different cases in order to analyze it very simply. So, in the first case we assumed over here that emissivity remains constant with wavelength, and for such material we figured out that they can be classified as a gray surface. So, wherever emissivity is constant, it may not be equal to 1, but it can be equal to 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 or any constant value, then that particular surface is known as a gray surface. And in general, surfaces emissivity would actually vary with wavelength, like shown in case 2 and case 3 over here. And then we figured out a technique of piecewise making these type of step functions over here, highlighted in red ink, where we are going to assume that for particular wavelengths like this interval and this interval and this interval, that within these intervals the material is gray, having a constant value of emissivity, and then we can calculate the overall emissivity based on addition of these particular intervals on a weighted average basis. So, then we went on and formally defined emissivity, which is this ratio over here, the actual emissive power as a function with divided by the black body emissive power. So, this is always less than 1. Then we looked at the definition for absorptivity, transmissivity and reflectivity, and we figured out that the sum of these three is equals to 1, and we looked at a very simple example over here, and we finished off that particular topic with very powerful Kirchhoff's law, which tells that the spectral emissivity is equal to the spectral absorptivity in the simplest form over here. And I explained then that this law is very useful when we are designing solar collectors, because we want a particular type of emissivity very low and we want absorptivity to be very high. So, this law allows us to play around with that, discover different type of materials which are very good absorber in the solar irradiation, solar wavelengths, and very poor emitters in the IR region, so that we can have maximum absorption and very less emissions. So, with that we can have very high efficiency of the solar collector. So, that was the brief recap of what we did last time. Now, let us move on to the topic for today, which is radiation heat transfer between surfaces. So, what do we mean by that? So, essentially I can draw any two surfaces over here. So, let me draw a disc which is horizontal at this particular point. This is the normal to that disc, and then let me connect it to another point over here, and then I will draw another disc which is of a slightly different orientation over there. So, if I know the area of these two discs, I know the temperatures of these two discs, and I know the distance which separate them along with the angles which are associated over here. So, if I know theta 1, if I know theta 2, then the question would come out is that what is the net rate of heat transfer taking place between surface 1 and 2, and this we can analyze in various ways. So, this is just one example that I can take over here. There could be another case, it could actually be an enclosure. So, let me take a cylindrical enclosure where we have a disc on top, then a disc at the bottom like this. So, it is a three-dimensional body over here, and let me say the top disc, which is this particular cover, is at some high temperature, let us say 1000 Kelvin, and I call this as surface number 1. Then my bottom disc is surface number 2, and its temperature is also known to me, and let me say the side surface, the peripheral surface, is surface 3, and I know its temperature as well. So, it is a hollow cylinder in which there are three different surfaces which are at three different temperatures. And let me make it slightly more complicated, because in real life we may have materials which may have non-black body emissivity, which means I can put some emissivity numbers as well for these three surfaces. And what I need to find out now is what is the rate of heat transfer taking place from 1 to 3, from 2 to 3, from 1 to 2, and reverse as well. Plus, I need to figure out what is the rate of heat transfer which is taking place, how much heat I need to supply to surface 1, to surface 2, surface 3. So, these are the type of typical examples that we are going to study in this particular chapter. So, what we are looking at, there would be different type of surfaces, like in the first case the two surfaces are not connected with one another, neither do they form an enclosure, and in the second case we see some sort of an enclosure which is actually being formed, and we want to figure out, we are curious that if the whole thing is kept in isolation under steady state, then the higher temperature surface, perhaps we have to supply some current or some heat or some sort of a heat source, chemical reaction, it could be any exothermic reaction which is taking place, and then from the lowest temperature surface we will have to remove some heat from there. And typically in real life we find this example taking place in furnaces, where radiations would be very important because the temperatures involved are very, very high. In order to understand all these conditions, and let us say we solve this particular problem where I have put a red star, and then suddenly we change our parameter. So, suddenly this particular cylinder becomes little thin, or on the other hand it becomes little flattish like this. Then what would be all the heat transfer rates that we are seeing over here? So, we need to figure out many of those things, because if I change the geometry, immediately we can see the rate of heat transfers would perhaps be very, very different that would be taking place if it is a slender cylinder or it is a very tall cylinder. So, in order to figure out the solution for all these problems, we have to come up with first the concept of the view factor, and that is what we will start this particular topic today. It is given by the symbol f, and we generally put two subscripts below it, because view factor is given between two surfaces. So, let us start our topic today with view factors, and let us try and understand what do we mean by view factor, what is its definition. So, view factor is a concept which is very important in radiative heat transfer. It is given by the symbol f, and there are two subscripts to it, f I j, and these are usually subscripts representing different surfaces. So, it can be f12, f22, f11, f21 and so on. So, what does it actually mean? So, I will explain it with the help of an example. So, let me draw over here two surfaces. So, these are two flat surfaces. Let me call it as the I surface over here, and somewhere over here we have the j surface, and both are having finite temperature. So, let me just focus on surface I, the radiation which is leaving surface I, and try and quantify. So, that radiation, I think all students know, will go in every direction possible. So, it will go in all the theta and phi direction. What we are interested in is, out of all this blue radiation which is going out over here, or rather radiation which is represented in blue, how much of it is actually striking surface j, which means I want the ratio green divided by the ratio blue, which means in mathematical terms how will I define it. So, simply I am saying in this particular case f I j is the ratio of the total radiation emitted by surface I, which will be in the denominator, and in the numerator we are interested in that radiation which leaves surface I and strike surface j. So, for simplicity I can take I as 1 and j as 2. So, I am just representing it by two numbers. So, what I am writing over here is q dot 1 2 divided by q dot 1, and I can put some numbers as well. Let me imagine this particular surface, the bottom surface I or surface 1 is emitting, let us say 2 watts. So, my denominator would be 2 watts. And let us say the green part which is hitting the surface 2 directly, that value I know over here. Let us assume that I know that particular value, that is 0.02 watt. So, if I do this particular ratio, my f12 value turns out to be simply 0.02 divided by 2, which is 0.01. So, this is just an example with which I have illustrated its use. Let me formally define it over here. So, f I j can be written in this way as well. So, I use the arrow from I to j, or I can write it in short form like this. In both cases, how it is defined is as follows. It is the fraction of the radiation leaving surface I that strikes surface j directly. So, the most important word over here is directly. We are not interested in that component which hits another third body and then is hitting on surface 2. So, something which leaves surface 1, hits surface 3 and then is incident on surface 2, that amount of radiation we will not consider over here. So, this definition directly helps us figure out over here and over here. So, the numerator it says, so what we are talking about in terms of f I j, it is a fraction. So, fraction will have a numerator and the denominator. So, the denominator is the total heat which is radiated by surface 1, and the numerator is that particular radiation which leaves surface 1 as is mentioned over here, and it strikes surface 2 directly. Okay. Which means, let me play around with this example little bit more. What will happen to the Fij value which we have calculated to be 0.01 if I bring the surfaces 1 and 2 very close to one another? Now, I have brought them very close to one another. So, if the earlier case F12 value was 0.01, then this value in this particular case has to be higher, maybe it becomes 0.1. What happens if I bring them so close to one another, they are just right on top of one another. If let us say the bottom one is surface 1, top one is surface 2. So, if I ask the student in this particular case, if I have two surfaces over here which are right on top of one another, both are having equal area, very close to one another. So, then I think the students can tell that the fraction becomes that the radiation leaving surface 1, which is the bottom surface, that strikes directly the surface number 2, I think that is almost equal to 100%. So, we can write in that case, if this gap is very small, then this is value will be very, very close to 1. Why is it not 100%? Because some radiation will be leaving from the side over here. Which means another question I can ask student, in what case is the view factor value equal to 1, exactly equal to 1? Which means all the radiation which is leaving surface 1, all of it has to strike surface 2, which means surface 2 has to totally encompass surface 1. So, how will I draw in that particular case? Draw it in this way, that surface has totally surrounded surface 1. In this particular case, whatever is leaving surface 1, all of it in all direction has to go and hit surface 2. In that case, the view factor becomes equal to 1. So, the closer to the two bodies come, or if one body has totally encompassed another body, then the view factor becomes equal to 1. Okay. Now, let us try and see how will I find out the expression for this Fij, which means analytically I know Fij is simply q dot I to j divided by q dot I. Is there a way I can further simplify it, this particular expression? So, in that case, let me take two surfaces once more. So, let us say this is my surface area A1, this is the surface area A2. Okay. And what I want to find is the value of F12, which will be simply this ratio over here. So, if I ask the students, if I know the temperature of this particular body is T1, and if I assume it to be black body, then what is the expression that I can write for Q dot 1? So, perhaps we can write Q dot 1 is equal to area into the emissive power, but instead of emissive power I am going to write radiosity over here. And what is the, if you remember, what was the definition for radiosity? So, radiosity was the sum of the reflected plus the emitted component of the radiative power. So, this is what I am going to write over here. So, the denominator is clear to me, and further can I write Ji as a function of intensity, which means if you remember, if we make that diffuse emission, diffuse reflection assumption, then what can we write J as a function of I? So, if you remember, we get it as a function of the solid angle pi multiplied by I. So, this is another expression that I can write over here. If I combine them both, then I get the value of Q dot 1 is simply pi I1 into A1. Why am I interested in calculating all this? Because my main focus is on figuring out the value of Fij or F12. This is what I want to figure out. So, I am trying to figure out over here how much of the radiation from surface A is hitting surface 2. So, I can take a point in surface A and figure out how much is going over here. then I'll take another point and then figure out. So, you can see there will be so many green arrows around over here. In addition, there will be all these blue arrows which indicate that particular radiation which is not striking surface 2. So, q dot 1 is essentially the sum of all these blue and green arrows, that is my denominator. So, the green part and the blue part together, that whole thing is my denominator, and the numerator is the green part over here, that whatever is leaving surface 1 is hitting surface 2. Now, I want to calculate the value of the green part, which means, how do I get the expression for q dot 1 to 2? So, I will ask a question to student, if these two areas were very small, as a matter of fact, if it was not area A1, but differential area dA1 and this thing was differential area dA2, can then I find out this particular value of dq dot? And the answer is yes. If you remember from our previous class, this expression we have already written, and q dot 1 2 will be simply the integral of dq dot for the whole area dA, which means I need to figure out the value of this dq dot, which is very simple. And that was coming from the definition of the radiation intensity. So, how will that expression look like? It will be I1, which is the radiation which is leaving over here. I1 itself will be a function of T1 multiplied by, is it the area or the normal area, the area normal to the line of propagation. So, it was the normal area to the line of propagation. So, if I have over here this angle as theta 1, then what I will have to write is I 1 into A1 cos theta 1, because I am taking intensity which is emitted from surface 1 multiplied by the projected area of that surface 1. So, this projected area will be dA1. So, please add the dA over here, because we are taking the differential area dA1 multiplied by the solid angle over here. So, I will make a small solid angle at this particular point. This small solid angle I will write as d omega, and I will put the subscript 2 to 1, because this is the solid angle when we are viewing surface 2 from surface 1. So, if we are seeing surface 2, just like in previous lecture we have calculated that if sun is setting at particular point, we are able to look at it directly, it is not very bright, then we can figure out what is the solid angle that we are viewing for the sun, that is d omega 2 1. And what was the expression for a small solid angle? Again from previous lecture, it was simply ds by r square, where ds was the small area. So, in our particular case, it will turn out to be small area is dA2 and the distance between them is r over here. So, it will be dA2 by r square, which means I can plug all these things in over here, and I will rearrange the equation to make it little bit more neat and clean, and it will become I1 dA1 cos theta 1 and d omega will be dA2, and also we have to take the normal component of that, which means it will be multiplied by cos theta 2. So, it is not very neat and clean over here. I will make it more neat and clean at this particular point. See d omega 2, let me rewrite it over here. I think that is better. So, d omega 2 is dA2 into cos theta 2, which is the projected area of that object number 2 divided by distance square. So, this part I will erase from here. Remember, that is what ds stood for. Ds was the projected area. So, what we get over here is dA2 cos theta 2 by r square. So, this is a very nice expression for dq dot. How do I convert dq dot into q dot 1 2, which means the question is how do I convert this expression over here? I will have to integrate it, which means my q dot 1 to 2 is essentially, will it be single integral or double integral? That is what I want to ask students, which means I will rearrange it this way, this becomes cos theta 1, cos theta 2, let me erase this part as well, divided by r square, and then I have over here dA1 dA2. So, I have two differential areas, I will have to integrate it twice, once for the area A1, second time for area A2. So, this is very useful equation that we have obtained over here, and let me start putting some numbers over here. So, this equation on the left side I am going to put as equation number 1, this equation over here I am going to write equation number 2, and this one over here was my original equation, let me call it equation number 3. So, what I am going to do is going to substitute equation number 1 and equation number 2 into equation number 3. So, for that I need some space, I will move on to the next slide over here, and what I am going to do is I am going to write the equation for F12 is equal to q dot 1 to 2 divided by q dot 1, and q dot 1 to 2 was a very simple expression. It had two double integrals, I1 cos theta 1 cos theta 2 divided by r square into dA1 dA2, and what was q dot 1? It was pi I1 A1. So, the I1 intensity term will get cancelled out on both the numerator and denominator, and what I will get is a term like this, 1 by A1 integration over A1 A2, and what I get expression is cos theta 1 cos theta 2 divided by pi r square dA1 dA2. Do not be afraid of this long expression over here, because very soon we will find out very simple ways in which we can find out the value of F12. So, this everything on the right hand side is equal to the expression F12. So, let me recall once again that what is the value of F12, what does it represent? It represents that fraction of energy which is leaving surface 1, which strikes directly some surface 2 which is kept over here. If both of them are brought on top of one another, F12 value becomes 1, because 100% of the energy which is leaving 1 strikes surface 2. If they are very far apart from one another, where they are not even able to see one another, that distance square 1 by r square is very large, then F12 will become very close to 0, and both these things we can see over here. I think this is clear. Now, if I ask the students one question, if I reverse it, what is the value of F21? And I put a question mark over here. So, physically what I am asking, we will go back to video mode. Now, I am asking that what is the fraction of radiation which is leaving from surface 2, which is up over here, that is striking surface 1 directly. So, F21 is different than F12, but is there a way they are connected with one another? And that question I will answer over here, and I am just reversing the first index over here with the second index, which means I can write the same equation as F21. Whatever was 1 I will make as 2. So, it was A1, I will write A2, integrate over here. This will remain A1 A2 because both are same. Cos theta 1 theta 2 remain same, because whether I call it theta 1, whether I call it theta 2, r square remains same, dA1 dA2 also remain same, which means this is very nice over here. Now, we can see very interestingly the terms inside the integration over here are actually same. It is the only 1 by area term which is different, which means if I divide both these equations, both the sides, these parts will get cancelled out, the green parts over here, which means what I will get is F12 area 1 is equals to F21 area 2. And this is where we are getting to see very simple relations we will see from now onward. So, view factor equation may look very long, but if you understand it nicely, the questions we will be able to solve very quickly, and also you will get a very good understanding of what is happening in the nature. and there is a formal name for this kind of a relation which is known as the reciprocity relation. And you can see why it is reciprocity. Whatever 1 is doing to 2, 2 is doing to 1. So, when we are writing F12A1, we are just reversing F21A2. So, it is 1 and 2 are having the reciprocal relation with one another. So, whatever 1 is doing to 2, 2 is doing to 1, that is what we are seeing in this particular equation over here. Okay. Now, let me give one or two simple questions to students, so that they are able to understand what is going on. So, let us say we have a small ball over here and its surface I am calling as surface 1, or rather the outer surface of small ball 1 I am calling as surface 1. So, this surface over here, and the inner surface of the bigger ball I am calling as surface 2, which is this surface over here. So, if I ask the student what is the value of F12, so you have to think yourself that okay, whatever is the radiation which is leaving surface 1, this radiation will hit 2 directly, this will also hit, this will also hit, which will also hit, which means all the radiation which is leaving surface 1, no matter in which direction, in all direction it is leaving, whatever is leaving surface 1 is hitting surface 2 directly, completely, which means F12 directly turns out to be simply 1. Just by observation we can write for this example that the answer is 1. Let me take another example. In this example, there is some sort of a flat disc which is enclosed by this semicircle over here. So, the flat disc inner surface is surface 1 and the inner surface of this semicircle is surface 2. Now, here again same question, what is the value of F12? So, here again we have to use our understanding and try and draw some arrows. So, this radiation leaves goes over there, this also goes over there, sorry. This hits surface 2 directly. So, everything which is leaving surface 1 is hitting surface 2. So, here also we can write F12 is equals to simply 1. Okay. Good. Now, let me ask another question. If I have a flat surface like this and I call it surface 1, can F11 be determined? So, the question is, there is just one surface, that is this surface 1, flat surface 1. What is the value of F11? So, again we will have the same understanding. So, let me draw all these radiations. So, all this radiation which is leaving surface 1, is it again hitting surface 1? So, the answer is no. Whatever is leaving a flat surface from here is going out, it is not coming back in and hitting it over here directly. I can put a mirror in which this radiation, when it leaves, it strikes this mirror over here, then it is reflected and goes back over there. But then I have put some obstacle, it is not hitting it directly, which means none of the radiation which is leaving surface 1 is hitting it directly. So, I can put it equal to 0. Is this point clear? Which means I can even define parameters like F11. Let me look at another surface over here, slightly curved surface, and the top portion I am calling as surface number 2. Now, I want to find out what is the value of F22. These are not linked with one another, this is separate, this is separate, this is separate. So, only one surface is kept over here, that is surface number 2, and I want to find out the fraction of radiation which leaves surface 2 and then strikes it again, which means again over here we can write that this is equals to 0. So, in a curved surface as well, whatever radiation is leaving this curved hand over here, it is going in all directions, but it is never going to come and hit back another portion of this particular surface. As a matter of fact, I can ask student, if it were curved in this particular way, then the portion which can leave this particular left side, it can go and directly hit on the right hand side. So, if I go to the slide and let me draw the third surface over here, which is kind of a convex surface over here, and I call this surface number 3. So, if I ask over here what is the value of F33, then again I draw these radiations. So, this radiation is going up, this is going up, but the third radiation is hitting over here. Then this radiation over here is hitting this particular surface, which means in this particular case I have to say this thing is not equals to 0. So, please try and understand with the help of these three examples what we are trying to show over here, that if a surface is flat, if it is concave, curved in this particular way, then all the radiation which leaves it does not come back and hit it. But if it is curved in this particular way, then it can hit one another. Is this point clear? As a matter of fact, I can ask that same question on this particular surface over here. So, you remember this was one small ball inside another big ball. So, the small ball 1. So, if I ask the student what is the value of F11 over here, then which example will you think? So, everything which is leaving, nothing is hitting it back, F11 is 0. Good. What about F22? So, let me draw some direct radiation. This part is hitting it, this part is hitting itself, this part is hitting itself, which means all I can say is it is not equals to 0. So, some part of radiation which is leaving surface 2 is going to hit itself again. So, this is very interesting and very nice understanding if you are having, then you do not need to worry anything about view factors. You can just think and analyze, picture the whole thing, imagine it in your head and try and figure out where are the radiations going, in which direction it is going, and then there will be some relations that we will study now that will also help that particular understanding. So, I think that concept is clear up till this point. So, I will move on to the next slide, where we will try and formally see what are the different type of view factor relations that we can use for our convenience. So, we look at view factor relations. So, first relation actually we have already studied. So, for the sake of completion, let me write it over here, that is the reciprocity relation. So, reciprocity relation, I think we have remembered, it was F12 into A1 was simply A2 into F21. Now, to make it interesting, if I bring another surface and call, there are three surfaces over here. This is surface 1, oops. This here is surface 2 and then we have over here surface 3. Even in these particular cases, as long as they are not blocking one another, they are visible from one another, then we can write this particular relation for all three of them. A1 F12 is equals to A2 F21. This is between surface 1 and surface 2. Now, I can write between surface 1 and surface 3 another one. I will write A1 F13 is equals to A3 F31. Okay. And similarly, between surface 2 and surface 3, I can write another one, A2 F23 is equals to A3 F32. So, I can generalize it between any pair of surfaces I and J, I can write it in this particular form. So, all these three are correct. Now, what is the use of reciprocity relation? Let us try and make use of it very quickly. So, we will take one or two simple examples. So, one very interesting example is there, that is a very long pipe inside another very long pipe. So, the pipe is such long that it is almost infinitely long. I am not going to draw over there. So, very long pipe over here. So, the length is L, very close to infinity, and it is in such a way that the inner radius is capital R, outer radius is twice of capital R. So, the radius are different by 1:2. Inner surface I will call as surface 1, this inner pipe, and the outer pipe I will call as surface 2. Okay. So, here if I apply the reciprocity relation, what will I get between pipe 1 and pipe 2? So, we have two pipes, one inside the another, and I want to figure out if I can apply the reciprocity relation over here. So, I think I will get something like A1 F12 is equals to A2 F21. What is the value of A1? A1 will be the periphery of this particular pipe, 2 pi r into L, which is the infinity length. A2 will again be 2 pi r, instead of r it will be 2 r. So, I can write 4 pi r L. If I substitute both these things over here, what will I get? I will simply get F12 is twice F21, which means using the reciprocity relation given over here, we can simplify lot of view factors and we can try and figure out their values as well. So, this is something that we will do very soon. We will be able to find out the exact value of F12 and F21, and towards the end of the lecture we will also able to find out F11, F22, because there will be, for two bodies there are two surfaces, there are 4 view factors. Then similarly for 3 surfaces there will be 9 view factors. So, we will be able to figure out all of them. So, be confident that very soon we will learn all these things. So, this is the first relation that we have studied, that was called the reciprocity rule. Now, let us look at the second rule, which is very critical. This is known as the summation rule. So, summation rule, actually mathematically I can write it very simply as the sum of the view factors for the whole surfaces provided they are in an enclosure is equal to 1. What does this mean? I must make an enclosure first over here. This I call as surface 1, this I call surface 2, this is surface 3. Then how do I apply this particular summation rule over here? Then I will have to choose a surface. So, the first thing I do is choose surface 1. Then if I apply the reciprocity rule for surface 1, what will it give me? So, I equals to 1. Then it says Fij, F11, F12, F13 is equal to 1. This is my first equation. Now, I will choose another surface. I will choose surface number 2. Then I will choose surface number 3. And for all these 3 cases, I will get this kind of relationship. For surface 2, this becomes F21, F22, F23. If I add them, I will get 1. Third case, I get F31, F32, F33, total becomes 1. Okay. Now, the only thing that we have to be careful over here is this summation rule will not be applicable if I pull these surfaces apart, which means the same thing if I draw like this. If this is surface number 2, this is surface number 1 and this is surface number 3. So, all 3 lengths are same between the 2 cases. So, all I have done is I have pulled these surfaces apart. So, there is now space between each of those surfaces. Now, none of these 3 equations are valid. This is not valid, this is not valid, this is not valid for case B. This is case B. This was case A. So, what is similar between case A and case B? Case A has 3 surfaces. Case B also has 3 surfaces. But what is the difference? The surface make an enclosure in case A. So, you see over here when the 3 surfaces join, they make a full enclosure. In case B, it is not full enclosure. There are gaps in between. Where are those gaps? Let me show it with the green color. So, there is one gap here, there is one gap here and there is one gap over here. So, interesting thing is I can call them surfaces, gaps also I can call surfaces. So, this surface 1, 2 and 3 already there. I will write this surface 4, this surface 5, this surface 6. Now, I can apply a summation rule when I have made a full enclosure. How will it look for surface 1? It will appear F11, F12, F13, F14, F15, F16. Now, the whole sum will be equal to 1, and now this is correct, which means in radiation heat transfer, even if there is no surface, in order to make an enclosure, we can assume there is a hypothetical surface which has no temperature, 0 temperature. Then it will become okay, but if we are just 3 solid surfaces, but they are very far apart from one another, then I cannot apply summation rule. Now, let us go back to the previous slide. With the knowledge of summation rule, earlier we already had reciprocity rule. Now, I will be able to figure out all these values. You remember we wanted to write all these 4 values. How? Let me go ahead and do that. So, let me apply summation rule over here. So, I already have 2 surfaces. For surface 1, what is summation rule, tell me? F11, F12 equals to 1. Then similarly for surface 2, I have F21, F22 equals to 1, which means now I have all these equations over here. This is equation number 1, equation number 2, equation number 3. So, we have 3 equations and 4 variables, isn't it? But I have a trick. The trick that I have over here is there will be a 4th equation as well. Why? I can directly write over here. I am making a blue star, or maybe use another color. I will use red color over here. If I ask the student where the red star is, this is F11. What is the value of F11? What is the value of the inner pipe F11? I think we can write it is 1. Directly I can write it is 1. Why? Because there is no radiation which is leaving surface 1 and then striking it back again. Sorry, so this is 0. Then I made a mistake. Sorry, I take it back. F11, sorry about that. F11 is actually 0 because none of the radiation which is leaving surface 1 coming back to strike it. So, it was not 1, it is 0. So, this value I know. So, the 4th variable I already know. I have 3 equations and 3 variables. I can solve it very easily. How? Let me solve from here. If F11 is 0, then F11 plus F12 is 1, then this gives me directly that F21 is 1. Do not get confused with all 1 and 2 business, you do it slowly. I am doing it because I have already done it, solved it before. Are you able to see how this thing is equal to 1? Because this thing is equals to 0, this is equals to 0. Then F12 is equals to 1. Now, I can make a line over here and then say if F12 is 1, then using this equation I can get the value of F21. So, F21 is simply F12 divided by 2, which is 1 by 2, it is 0.5. Then I can go and write over here, this thing is simply 0.5. So, this equation I have used, this equation I have used. Now, let me use the last equation. So, last equation, what does it give me? It tells me over here. So, I will use another ink. It tells me I can calculate the value of F22 as simply 1 minus F21, and F21 value I already have, which is half, 1 minus half. So, this value is also half over here. So, this value is half, which means now I have solved for all the 4 values 1, 2, 3 and 4. So, I will put 4 tick marks over here. So, now I have used, in order to solve this particular problem where I am putting the black star, I have just used 2 relations. One is the reciprocity relation and the other one is the summation rule. So, these are 2 very powerful rules which help us understand, even for complex geometry we can somehow simplify it in many cases. So, let us try and learn many of these useful, more useful rules. So, the third one is the superposition rule. It is very interesting rule and very powerful. What does superposition rule tell us? It tells us that if I have this particular surface 1 over here and then I have this surface over here, oops, this is surface 2, but it is divided, I am just dividing into two parts. So, this part I am calling as surface 2A and this part over here I am calling it as 2B. So, what superposition rule tells me is that if I know the value of F12, then I can write it as the sum of F1 2A, F1 2B, which means any large object I can use different colors over here. This one I will show in blue and this part I will show in green. So, essentially blue and green together is one big object, but I can always split it into two parts or 3 part or 4 part. All that thing added together should give me the same thing over here. So, in short form I can just write F12 is equals to F12A plus F12B. And this is very interesting rule that we will use many times later on, that essentially whatever is the fraction of radiation hitting this part over here and the orange part over here, we add them, they are the same, they will get the final answer. Now, let us write one more rule which is very interesting. This is known as the symmetry rule. So, symmetry rule is simply that if there is some surface 1 over here, okay, and there are 2 more surfaces which are both symmetrical along 1, which means I am drawing over here, this is a green surface and this is the red surface over here. So, we can clearly see that surface 2 and surface 3, they are longer than surface 1, but there is some sort of a symmetry in between. So, if I can use this orange dotted line, so along this particular line there is symmetry. If there is symmetry like this, then I can clearly write, without knowing the values, I can simply say F12 is equals to F13, because both of them are symmetrical with surface number 1, which means I can even make the geometry complicated. I can say this is surface 1, then we have surface 2 like this, and if I can draw the same thing over here. So, believe me, I try to draw it symmetrical over here. So, then 2 and 3 we can simply write, if this is surface 1, that F12 equals to F13, because again there will be some sort of a symmetry over here along the orange axis over here. Is this point clear? So, if there is symmetry, then I can use this particular symmetry rule. Now, let me make things little bit complicated, which means I may have slightly complicated geometry. So, let me put a disc over here which is kept on top of another disc over here. So, if this is surface 1, this is surface 2, I know the value of radius r2, I know the value of radius r1 and I know this particular distance d. So, the question which is given to me is find out F12, find out F21. Then there is some sort of a rectangular wall, and there is below it there is another sort of rectangular wall over here. Let me redraw this particular thing. So, this is a rectangular floor on bottom. So, the floor I am representing as surface 1 and the wall over here is surface 2. So, I know this particular width, I know this particular height and I know the value of this particular length. right. So, what I am trying to draw over here is there is a 90-degree angle over here. So, this is actually a straight wall. So, again over here I want to find out the value of F12 and F21. Whichever of this I can find out, the other one I will be able to find out very easily, because I will just use the reciprocity relation. So, finding out one of them is difficult, the next one will be very easy. Then there could be another geometry over here, which could be, there could be a rectangle on top over here, a rectangle like this, and it is having heat transfer with another rectangle over here. Both are on top of one another. So, this is surface 1, surface 2, I know the width, I know the length, I know the distance between them d, and the same thing over here. So, over here also I want to find out the value of F12 and F21. So, how do I find them? One way is to use that particular long expression that we have used earlier with A1, A2. I am writing from memory, so please check. I think there is R square over here, dA1, dA2. So, we may use some numerical tools or methods in order to plot the whole thing in a computer and then do piece by piece integration and just add the whole thing up together. But what we will learn, I think, in next lecture onwards is there are some figures and tables which are available in some standard textbooks that students can actually use. So, if you can see over here, so this particular geometry you can immediately recognize, we were just talking about this. So, this particular figure directly gives the value of view factors if I know these two ratios, y by L and x by L. Okay. So, all we need to do is use these type of figures over here. This is for two discs which are kept at parallel to one another, separated by some distance, and this is that geometry where there is a floor and there is some sort of a wall. Both are kept adjacent to one another. So, in all these three cases we can figure out the value of the view factor simply by looking at these particular curves. So, I think for today I will stop at this particular point, and what we have emphasized today, let us go and recap. So, we looked into the detailed definition of the view factor Fij, we did some particular analysis, looked at the relationship that we are able to obtain. So, one very complicated equation we looked at over here, but when we started looking at the relations between the view factors like the reciprocity relation given over here, and we have looked at the symmetry rule, then we figured out that these relations make things very convenient and very simple. And why are we learning this concept of view factors? That is very important to figure out is, if we have 2 or 3 surfaces which are at certain temperatures, there could be inside this room itself something at 400 Kelvin, 500 and 600 Kelvin, 3 surfaces, and they are interacting with each other radiatively. So, we want to figure out how far apart they are, what is their geometry. So, what is the net rate of heat transfer, because these are things which can become very important in real life. So, I think with that understanding, let me close this particular lecture. Once we meet next time, then we will start looking at the temperature aspect as well. So, we will combine view factors and the temperature distribution in order to figure out what is the actual radiative heat transfer which is taking place between these surfaces. With that, I thank the students. Thank you.